ad-lib over
the music, right? I've heard that. That's why I was starting to think like we could even just like right now, just like start talking. What's going on? Even sponsored by who?
Shoreline Sports Cards.
Sponsored by Shoreline Sports Cards. Right now, we can like say those things. We can say whatever we really want, whatever's on our mind, whatever we're feeling.
This episode is brought to you
One.
by.
It's brought to you by the Shoreline Sports Cards, I'm guessing, because they're the ones who are sponsoring this episode somehow that I was not aware about. But it's great to know that the Shoreline Sports Cards up in Port Washington. If you are up in that area, definitely go check them out for your sports cards because they have a great selection. Wax, they got singles, they got everything. And you can find them on Whatnot too. So if you want to go over there and check them out, great environment, great people. Just go and get in the game, buy some cards. It's best part of this industry, honestly, in my opinion, when it comes to sports and hobby. Which one?
The quarterback one to your right.
This one?
Yeah.
You know, it's not new to the studio, but it's new to the episode, to the show.
Let's go.
So I mean, it's cool. We got a couple of big time quarterbacks over here. Let's see who we got here. We got
So one lady, I gotta
Joe
tell you,
Montana.
I gotta tell you a quick story about that.
Who?
Some
It's
lady
like a Tom
came.
Brady football.
Some lady came in here, and she I'm not gonna lie, she freaked out that I had that. She was like, "Do you not understand what this means?" Because she's like, "I'm a 49ers fan. Do you not understand what this means?" And I honestly, I felt a little bad. I was like, "I don't." And she kind of was like explaining to me, and I mean, there was a lot of people. I was trying to manage a lot of people at the studio, so there was so many things talking. But I gotta find out what that football means to her because she freaked out about it.
Doesn't
Is it
seem so
hers?
significant to me. I'm not saying it's not, but just
Is
seems
it
like
hers?
No, she
No.
literally said though, she was like, "I'm gonna steal this," and I was like, "Oh well, it's not mine, it's my client's," and she's like, well, try and find out whose it is, and I'm gonna come back here and I'm gonna take it." And I was like,
Anybody know who this is? Because I have no idea who that is. Any one of our viewers also want to comment away and let us know. That'd be really cool.
let's hold it up real quick.
Right
I'm gonna
here. This
zoom
guy
in.
right here.
Hold on.
Number 12 on the Chargers.
I'm gonna zoom in.
I mean, we could look this up, but let's just assume that there's no internet, right? Let's just assume we couldn't just look something up, and we're just gonna use our brains a little bit here, right? Right? For a second, we're gonna do that, and we're gonna ask. Obviously, our fans could always use the internet, but for anyone that's here, Josh, me, Ben,
No idea.
nobody. I can't even think of somebody
No,
right
not a
now.
clue.
Okay, well, any one of our fans, if you guys want to comment away who that is, it's a cool ball, but it's deflated and oh, I see why you said, is this Tom Brady's football? Oh,
I didn't think anyone heard that.
I heard it, but I was like, what is this guy talking about? It's not Tom Brady. It's not Tom Brady on here, but now I get it. Deflategate.
Yeah, I still can't believe Jalen Brunson used our song.
The Deflategate is a topic that we're not going to get into right now, but Deflategate is a topic that we should get into one day. I think that would be a nice, interesting topic just to talk about that situation. What happened, right? Get back into some historic football talk maybe one day. We'll talk about that. We'll brainstorm, maybe bring it to you guys. And you guys let us know. You guys want to hear anything cool about that? Maybe some historical topics you guys want us to get into? We'll definitely do whatever you guys tell us. You tell us, we'll do it for you guys. So
maybe we'll get the team's kicker and see how it impacted them.
So, anyways, welcome back. We're here.
That was a cool. I like that intro. That was
What?
a cool little intro that just happened.
Oh, were we recording this whole time?
Are you?
Yeah. Wait.
Oh, I wasn't sure.
Yeah. This whole time.
I'm just kidding. Obviously, I asked the fans.
Me and Harry are usually blabbering, so then by the time we actually get in front of it, we just go right into it because we were already talking so much. So
Yeah, we said
the
let's
idea is just
not
let everyone
get
know
rid
what
of
we're
the blabbering. Let's just put it all in there and just mesh it all together and see what happens. So, anyways, I mean,
Let us know what
baseball.
you guys thought.
baseball.
Yeah.
Baseball.
Totally.
I don't know if you can't tell from the top.
Finally.
I don't know if you can tell my outfit and this guy's wearing on the top of his head, but we're gonna talk about some baseball today because opening day is here. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a holiday for me. I don't know about you, but I absolutely love when opening day is around the corner. I cannot wait. I will not be doing anything on opening day except watch baseball because that's all I want to do. And I don't typically on any given day, watch random baseball games. I'm watching the Yankees almost all the time, right? But tomorrow,
Yeah.
opening day, line them up from 1 o'clock till 10 o'clock's pitch. You'll see me in front of my TV
Well,
enjoying
the
some
Yankees are the
baseball.
first game at 3, so
Oh, are
it'll
they
be
the first game
3.
at 3? I didn't see. I was just
Yeah.
preparing for an all day baseball fest, so I was like, I'm probably
So
gonna
you
be at
get
one
to sleep
o'clock.
in a little more.
Yeah, I guess I get to sleep in a little bit more. I get to wake up at 2:30 now instead of 12:30, so I get a couple more hours into the day. So that's pretty good. But I'm
Yeah.
excited, man. I don't know about you, but what are you really looking forward to seeing in this year? I mean, 2025 is going to be a interesting one. So what's there to be excited about?
I mean, there's a ton to be excited about. I think every team is 0-0. You can't rule any team out but the White Sox.
Oh
You
shit!
can
I'm
and now
sorry.
watch their
That was
well,
it's just poor White Sox, but I agree. Keep going. I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean, so I guess that's a good way to go into one thing that I was thinking about chatting about if Luis Robert is washed or can he play his way off that team. I feel like this is one of the guys that was supposed to be one of the premier talents, one of these mega prospects coming over from Cuba, Cuban Trout they called him, and unfortunately he suffered the same fate as Trout to this point in his career with the injury wise, not in terms of the financial wise. But what do you think? Do you think he can bounce back and get off?
I mean, Luis Robert is the type of guy that if he's not getting on base, he's not going to be productive because that's where he's going to make the most of it is getting on base, right?
Yeah.
Stealing bags and hoping for some good defense. But the truth is, since his call up, he's been really subpar of a player. I mean, I can't think of like his best season off the top of my head, but I could only assume, you know, from what I understand of Luis Robert as a player is roughly probably like you probably have a better or quicker way of getting in front of the internet and just looking this up. Luis Roberts'
I already,
highest
I already have it.
OPS, perfect. Luis Roberts' highest OPS on a qualified season, 777.
Nah, way over that.
Is it?
2021, he was 945.
What were the stat lines in 2021?
That was that wasn't qualified, but 2023 was qualified. That was 38 and oh, you're gonna hate this. 38 homers and 80 RBIs.
Yeah, of course.
You would hate that.
Well, you know what the thing is? I hate it because when we grew up in baseball, we grew up with guys who were hitting 30 bombs and 120 ribbies. Now
Yeah.
baseball, it's so much more of what's your, launch angle, how much bat speed do you have? How
Yeah,
hard
totally.
can you hit the ball and how long can you hit the ball? So that's the only thing that matters and these guys are hitting 30 home runs and 65 RBIs. That's
And hitting like 220.
right.
Or Kyle Schwarber 40 with hitting 197. He had the same. They showed
I
something
mean,
crazy. He
Schwarber's
had
been better than those years. I remember those
no,
Schwarber years.
no, I know, but I'm saying last year they said he had the same WAR as some scrub that like the only thing I don't even remember who it was, but he had 197 with 40 bombs. It was crazy. But
Yeah.
the Robert OPS was 857 for the 38-90 with 20 steals. And I mean
38.90, and he had an 858 OPS,
38-80. I'm sorry, with 90 runs scored.
90 runs scored, and what was his batting average?
857, 264.
264 batting average,
But
and
you think
and
about it,
his
if you
on
put
base
it
percentage.
315.
So he had a 264 batting average and a 315 on base percentage.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So
I think that if
would you rather
it's
have someone who bats 225 and has a 335 OBP, or a guy that bats 264 and has a 315 OBP?
I mean it depends on the other stuff they can do. Like I
Similar.
know
Let's say. I mean, okay. Well, they can't be that similar. They have to be relatively different in what their craft is. Obviously, if that's going to be the case, let's say the guy that's batting lower is got more of the power. He's got like, let's say he's
yeah,
a 30 to 40 home run guy. He's going to get you 80 plus ribbies, that stuff.
sure.
And the guy that's batting a little higher is the guy that's quicker on the base paths. He can steal. He plays good defense. All those other tools that you can expect.
Yeah.
The guy who's batting 225, he's got the pop. He's got the showmanship. All that stuff. What would you rather
Yeah.
take?
I mean if you're
Considering
hitting
your OBP is 335 and 315, obviously.
if you're hitting 220 and the OPS is the same, then I feel like with that I
Well,
feel like you're hitting for a lot of power in the 228, but like in your 264, I feel like, well, I'm just talking about Robert
thank
specifically,
you.
but like if you're like 260, 250, 270, if you're around there, I feel like you're kind of you're popping one out every so often, but otherwise you're it's good. It's like the game's probably like 8-2 other team when you're hitting your home runs. So it's kind of inflating your numbers a little bit.
I mean, these
But
types of players are they're not great players regardless, right? They're not all
yeah,
stars. We're not talking about Luis Robert here as being someone who's going to be the face of the franchise of the White Sox. I think the truth is the White
yeah,
Sox have a very promising future. To be honest with you, I don't
yeah,
know if you agree with me, but
sure.
the Montgomerys down there, and I love George
That's good.
Walco, and they got a couple other guys that are really
And the
promising
three
over there.
pitchers, they got
Yeah,
three pitchers
yeah.
too.
So I mean, the
Three
truth is
relievers.
this season's going to be a wash for them. The truth, whether they
Yeah,
win 40 games or 60 games, that's going to be how far of a difference they're really going to be. They're going to try to
yeah,
see how their season for the White Sox. And I mean, I don't think we were expecting to talk this much about the White Sox, but since they were pointed out specifically by Josh as being the team that's going to be irrelevant, we'll give them just a little bit of time here.
because we probably will talk about them again. To be honest.
Yeah, I mean, probably not. So, but what they're going to be checking for this season in 2025 is where do they stand for 2026? What is their next
Yeah,
step for this team's progression, right? How do these guys in AAA and AA are ready to do? What do they have that's
yeah,
promising in terms of the MLB roster that they could build around for the future? I mean, the White Sox are an organization that when the timing is right, they'll go out there and spend money too. So you could expect them when they see the promising players start coming their way from, within the organization, they'll go out and spend, 50 to 75 million dollars at a starting pitcher and a bat potentially. Hopefully, for their sake, it's obviously a good acquisition and not one that's gonna, turn out to be a bad deal. But they will
hmm
spend money. So for them, it's about evaluating 2025, see what they have in the minors, see what they have in the majors. There really can't be much expectations in that division. Obviously, how competitive the AL Central has become over the last year,
yeah.
for them to really make any noise. So for the White Sox, it's about hopefully these young guys can just progress well and take them to the next step. Luis Robert is probably going to hope sometime in July that he'll be finding a new home, maybe on a contending team.
Well, they did something really smart this year compared to last year. They don't have just a bunch of guys that no one would want. They have kind of a bunch of role players that maybe come June, July, when there's some injuries, teams will give something up for. And then if you can get a couple of those guys off, you can give guys like Kyle Teal, like Colson Montgomery, like Hagen Smith,
Yeah.
Noah Schultz. You give them all reps for the second half of the year, and even if you start building momentum, winning some games, it's not going to totally uproot your trajectory. But I don't think that they're going to be winning games like that. But you really look at 2026 as a year that if some free agents are out there and they look at this team and these guys are up and they're in spring training and they're playing well, guys might actually want to play there.
I mean, it's Chicago. It's a good city to
Yeah,
play, right? If you want to have that competition level that
yeah,
now we're seeing with like the New Yorks, right? New York Yankees, New York Mets, Chicago Cubs, Chicago White Sox. That's a pretty big
yeah.
rivalry too, especially in Illinois itself. So we could definitely see things happening that way. I mean, there was a couple of years ago they were out spending money. They went and got Dallas Keuchel. That turned out to be not the best type of deal, and
Yeah.
spent money on a couple other guys. They were hoping for Spencer Torkelson to turn out to be a little bit better. He didn't really. Oh, Spencer Torkelson, he's
He's in
Detroit.
Detroit.
Nah, messed up. White
Andrew
team,
Vaughn, maybe.
white team. Yeah, Andrew Vaughn. That's the guy I was thinking about. Well, Spencer Torkelson's also someone in Detroit that they're hoping that he could start taking it to the
Yeah.
next level, especially for a team that's on the pinnacle of potentially winning that division. But Austin Vaughn has been, or Andrew Vaughn has been. Really a big disappointment for them since he's been called up, and they were kind of
Yeah.
hoping for him to be a player that they could rely on to help build to the next level, and that really hasn't happened. So how much more can they afford with their prospects turning out to be so bad? They're one of those mid-tier markets, so they're going to
Yeah.
go through these phases of good times and bad times. Listen, at the end of the day, over the last 20 years, I know it was 20 years ago exactly, but they've won a World Series, so they're relatively
Yeah.
relevant in terms of baseball as modern day. But over the
Yeah.
last 10 years, not so great of a team. So can they bounce back? Can they really start, getting some players together and hoping for the best with, I think Colson Montgomery is going to be phenomenal. So,
No,
if you can invest in his sports cards, I will definitely love to buy as much Colson Montgomery cards as I could right now, and just hold them
yeah.
for the time being and see what they do in 5 years, because that's the game. Baseball cards are the easiest
How I
ones to
feel
be able
about
to
Kyle
invest in.
Teel.
Yeah,
Kyle
he's
Teel
been
is a
getting a lot of
guy.
noise. Travis Bazzana too.
Yeah,
He's been really lighting it up too. And
that's probably already like for the upside he has. The mark is probably capped though. I feel like
yeah, it's definitely he's definitely on the higher end for sure, absolutely. But
not for bad reason though.
but listen, I think we've given roughly 8 minutes of talk to the Chicago White Sox. So that's
Probably
probably
won't talk
eight
about
more
them
minutes
until
than they
like
ever would
who
have
they trade.
deserved. But since they came up and since Josh wanted to point them out for indirect reasons, we had to just get into it. But
That was very direct. It was just shade.
do you even remember what you were trying to point at specifically regarding pointing them out?
I was just saying that when it's a new year, every team is 0-0, and every team has a
Yeah,
chance to make it.
of
No, I said
course.
except the White Sox because, I mean, I know they'd honestly be really stupid to go for it. So it's not like they would say we're a 90-win team. What are you talking about? They'll say just wait and see. Just wait and see. We're gonna go through our process.
Well, I'm certain the players themselves on the roster that have, now officially made it are probably thinking, over at least the first couple of weeks, maybe the month of April,
Yeah,
let's go out and play baseball. Obviously, they want to go and play their best and hope,
let's shock the
they have
world.
right, exactly. And then, when that doesn't happen, which we expect not to happen, then you start
Yeah,
getting a little bit more lackluster. The clubhouse vibes aren't the best. Players start not bringing out their best when the team's not playing well. That happens, right, in sports. When your team's not playing well, these guys aren't showing up at the best because who cares, right? Realistically, your fans probably rather have you tank at that point and hope for the best pick.
yeah.
Obviously, in baseball, it's a little different, but you
I
know,
feel like they have a lot of guys fighting for their careers though. They have like Andrew Benintendi, Michael A. Taylor now, like
Andrew Benintendi,
all
geez,
all, all these all like this Mike. They have like 3 or 4 like Michael A. Taylor level guys
yeah,
that like
Benintendi, I think he's on the last year of his deal, right? Roughly,
they're probably hyped. They're probably hyped about that. They'll probably give
yeah.
Colson one of those like perform. Once that's
Colson, but
over,
they don't
they'll
have to
probably
worry
give.
about that for at least a few years.
Well, no, I mean I think if him whichever prospect comes up first
Or you're saying
and
wrap them
shows
up from
out,
the start,
yeah,
have a
exactly,
like Bobby Witt, Julio, like these guys that have been getting these
yeah,
contracts.
like Acuna,
Yeah. I mean, that's the smartest thing to do. That's what I love that about baseball, because similar to what
yeah,
hockey does, right? Just lock up your guys, man. Like, if
yeah,
you believe in them and they've been producing, the truth is you're going to get them on a better rate anyways. And they're
yeah,
around for the long term. You're avoiding that 6 years of, going back and forth of, all right, the first 3 years of the pre-arbitration, and then they got the next 3 years of the arbitration. So then the 3 years of the arbitration when it gets a little bit dicey and you start negotiating salaries.
hmm,
But you get that all over with. You don't have to worry
yeah.
about that. You have, let's say, a 10 to 12-year deal, sometimes even longer. What is Bobby Witt's deal?
Yeah,
12 to
I
13
think it's
years?
12.
Something
I think
like
it's
that.
12.
Julio's 12 years. So it's a great thing to see that they're going to be there for
Yeah,
at least a large portion of their career. And then in 12 years, they'll be in their early 30s and still have an opportunity, whether or not it's to stay with that organization or go find another, team out there still in their prime and still being able to get another big contract. It's a great thing. And
yeah,
speaking of
for sure.
Bobby Witt, I mean, he is one of the pinnacle athletes in the game. I mean, I think we can
Yeah,
agree on that. It's funny though, because we have our, sort of list, our topics that we kind of want to get into on the baseball. He's so happy to not make that list. I'm kind of shocked that we didn't want to put Bobby Witt, or we just didn't think about it, because
I think we were more looking for things that are more debatable because his status as a top 5 MVP candidate is secure.
top five. I think he's, you know, Judge always for me, but this could be a year that Judge has a little bit of a regression year because he doesn't have as much around him in the lineup. I'm not saying he's going to have like a 250 year or anything like that, but if he bats 290, has 40 home runs, and has 100 ribbies, that's still an amazing season, and we're still going to love him
Yeah.
just as much. It's not going to affect anything. But if Bobby Witt goes and puts up the same year he did last season, this season, he's winning MVP. And
Well,
so,
if Judge falters, which I
obviously,
mean,
if Judge goes out and bats
I
320
definitely
and
would
hits
I
60,
definitely wouldn't bet against that, and I know you wouldn't physically put money on that,
never.
but if anyone's gonna take that crown, I definitely agree that it's him and Bobby Witt on a
I wouldn't mind if it was him either. Good for
Yeah.
him. If he wins it, congratulations. I love Bobby Witt. I have, speaking of sports cards, I have invested in him pretty heavily, and I will hold. And I will
Yeah.
only get rid of Bobby Witt cards for Aaron Judge cards. But that's a very difficult thing to do because the
Yeah.
Bobby Witt cards are, the Aaron Judge cards, I mean, are so insane. I mean, the market on his
Yeah.
stuff is like through the roof. We're not going to talk about how Shohei's market is. His is number one, but Aaron Judge is up there, and his stuff sells like insane. And it's
Yeah.
really hard to acquire some of his best stuff. So I'm hoping I'm out there trying to find something good, but it's not easy. We got a sports card store next door, but
You
they
know a
never
guy who
have
knows a
anything
guy who's
big.
got an Aaron Judge. Hit up Big H.
Yeah, send me a DM. I'll probably be interested if it's obviously the right one. It can't be not the right one, but yeah, I mean it's got to be for me at least Judge always for the MVP, and then I would say Bobby Witt is clear number two. I mean there's no one even close I think to number two. Bobby Witt is just a phenomenal athlete, and I think if he puts up those numbers that he had last season, regardless of whatever Judge does, he'll definitely have some people saying he should win or not. Right? I mean, they did it last season, right? There was out there people saying it should have been Bobby Witt because he had a
Yeah.
phenomenal season. Ridiculous. It was Aaron Judge always. I mean, he had
Mostly Yankee haters, but still not stupid
Yankee
to
haters
say
and Royals
that,
fans. That's it.
yeah.
So it's fine. But
Not stupid to say that he had an MVP worthy season just any other year.
right. So even if we have the replication of both players doing what they did in 24 and 25, we'll still see those same conversations. Probably
Yeah.
more likely for Bobby Witt because he's just consistently doing it. Not that Judge isn't consistently doing it, but they're just seeing, it might also depend on, these voters are every year they're different. You get most of them are the same, but you get some people that are new voting people in.
Yeah.
Their mindsets are very much in question because sometimes, quickly, and this is like a little side note, but Derek Jeter's Hall of Fame ballot, right? This is a little different, but it's kind of the same. They're voting on who's going to get in, how many votes you're going to get in. Derek Jeter was no question going to be a Hall of Famer. What the question was it going to be unanimous? And that one person that decided not to vote for him, his reason was, and he said this, he said Derek Jeter was always going to be a Hall of Famer, whether I voted for it or not. But he did not believe Derek Jeter should be a unanimous Hall of Famer. And that is the reason why he voted for him not to be in there. It's ridiculous,
really
but
stupid.
that just goes to show you that anybody who's voting, we don't know exactly until they're announced that these people are going to be the ones voting. They're usually like Tim Kirkchin people, writers, journalists, Jeff Passan type of guys like that, who are around the game a lot and who know the game a lot, which at least is relatively respectable. The core people are the right people, but then you get a couple of fringe people that you're like, what are you doing? Like, where did you come from with this ridiculous mindset that you want to implement into the voting process of who's winning these awards? But that's just another conversation to be had, and maybe we'll do a little topic about that and kind of get into like the voting aspect on things. I don't know if that's big enough. You guys tell us if you guys want to hear anything related to like the voting aspect, whether it's for the MVPs or the Hall of Fame.
We got a long season. If you got some topics about baseball, about the writers who vote for the MVPs, if you got some want to learn nuances about the game, about organizational structure, about the business side of it, we're here to talk about all of it, and we love talking about all of it. But
Absolutely.
you want to talk about what you want to talk about.
Absolutely. And just kind of like wrapping up with the Bobby Witt and Aaron Judge conversation. I mean, they're both generational athletes. The Yankees are glad to have Aaron Judge. The Royals are glad to have Bobby Witt, both for long term, which is a beautiful sight to see. I love it when these guys are, sticking around with the team that, brought them through the whole entire system and, are ready to commit for the long term and are the best player, are the franchise player for that team. And it's a great thing to see. And they're going to both compete every single year. They're both going to put up some generational numbers throughout the rest of their careers. We're just excited to see, and we're just, as fans, we get to sit back and just, enjoy them, whether it's, on the TV or at the game, just to be able to witness their greatness is a beautiful thing to be able to see. So, we're lucky enough to be able to see these two play in their prime. I got to get closer to the mic before I, start losing people over here. And plus, if I go too far back, I might just slip back and take this whole thing behind me, and that would be a complete mess. Ben would yell at me. I get kicked out of the studio. We wouldn't want that either. So let's get on to the next thing that we're going to talk about regarding baseball. I mean, where do we get into? There's so many other things that we really wanted to mention. I mean, Paul Skeens, how about we talk about him, right? Year 2 is coming up for Paul Skeens, and he just had one of the most amazing years. Even though it didn't technically qualify for like the MVP, he still won, Rookie of the Year. And I mean, he was still, he qualified in the sense that, he could have won it, but people didn't want to give him the votes because he didn't have enough under the belt, which
Yeah,
I can understand. Chris Sale had a fantastic season last season,
yeah,
and I believe he deserved to win it. We talked about this on an episode earlier on.
yeah,
He was my guy, but Paul Skeens was both of our guys for Rookie of the Year,
yeah.
no questions asked,
No
right?
questions.
And so, I saw MLB actually posted on Instagram their top pitchers going into 2025. Paul Skeens is not number one.
Interesting.
He's number two. Do you know who number
Who was
one
number
is?
one?
Oh wow, I just completely blanked on number one. Oh, but I know that he's not number two. He was number two. I just blanked on who number one was.
It's probably either
Oh,
Wheeler or Yamamoto
neither. I
or
got it. Tariq Skubal.
oh, okay,
Okay.
that's fair.
Yeah. So they picked him to be number one and Skeens to be number two. Now,
They're both on my team.
interchangeable. Yeah. Congratulations, sir, over there. I got you. You don't have to remind me how great your fantasy baseball team is after beating me by half a
Developed
point
over
last
the
season.
years.
Okay. I don't want to talk about
That
it, but
was insane. It went down to the last at bat, literally.
I don't want to talk
All right, we
about
don't
it.
have to talk about that.
You don't understand. Like, you and I, we have such a great mind when it comes to baseball. The analytics, the understanding of these players, and just the caliber of who they are. Do they fit in their organization for it to be worth putting them on our roster on fantasy, right? And
Yeah,
so, that's why our teams were good enough to make it to the finals. And it was
yeah.
that close of a game where I think we should have probably, I don't know if you could even take a screenshot of that and just save it and just be like, look at this memory. I mean, it was, well, we might have, did we bring it up on an episode actually? Or did we plan to bring
I
it
don't
up on
think
an
we did,
episode?
but I think we spoke about
I
it.
think we planned about it and I probably got a little upset about it and I didn't want to talk about it because it was just so, like for the first week, I was like, how did this happen? How did this happen? Like, how did I lose by half a point? But I was at least glad it was to you, right? Like if
Yeah,
it was
no,
anybody, if it was like if you're listening right now, I'm gonna put you on the spotlight. I didn't really want to do this, but if I lost let's say MC Lieb on
You sound like LeBron today.
what?
You sound like LeBron today.
I sound like LeBron today.
Yeah, did you see what he did? Whatever. Well, I want to hear
I
what you
didn't
have to
see what
say.
he did, but anyways, I would have been like breaking something. And be like, how did this guy win? This guy makes trades 87 times during the year, and his roster's different. Every single time I check his team, he's got a different roster. It's like
He's the
completely
reason
different
there's a trade
team.
limit. He's the reason there's a trade limit in the league.
Well, he's definitely hitting that limit every single year, that's for sure. But somehow he's still somewhat competitive throughout the year. I don't know how it happens, but he makes the playoffs. And anyways, whatever. I don't want to talk too much about fantasy baseball in general. But I mean, Paul Skeens, generational player, Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher, entering year 2. He is also engaged to Livy Dunn. Congratulations to him. He's a very lucky man, in my opinion. Not everyone's opinion. You're a saint for being one of the greatest husbands out there, for never considering the idea of another woman being relatively attractive. And I commend
that
you
ain't
for
me.
that. So that's why I like to point out the fact that not to everybody, but to me, congratulations, Paul Skeens. She's a beautiful woman, and she's also an athlete. So that's also a really cool combination right there. But, I mean, you love him probably more than I do, so I'll let you kind of express how amazing he is.
I mean, it's just watching him is understanding how great he is. Just he started at Air Force, then went to LSU, and became the best pitcher in college baseball. And he throws 100. And now he's adding a cut or two with all these elite pitches. And I think when you look at his numbers, that he was a 1.96 with a 2.44 fielding independent pitching, and seeing that they're projecting him to have a 3 ERA, I'm saying how? Who's hitting this ball? Like he's what you gotta go on X and you gotta look at the way I love watching those overlays when the ball goes like that. You see it out of the hand, and then the two pitches go the exact opposite way.
Yeah.
And these athletes are incredible that can even make contact with that. Um, but he's and you could tell he's a horse. He wants the ball. I don't know if he got shut down. Maybe that he just skipped the last start or whatever. Maybe he didn't even did it. I don't remember. But I think he's gonna have a stellar year. He'll probably approach 250 Ks. I think it's a reasonable number. I don't. If he was a little under, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think 250 to 255 is a good place to set a stretch expectation. What do you think?
Well, let me ask you. This is what I wanted to quickly get into. You think he's gonna not be put on an innings limit depending on how the season goes?
No, I think that they'll because he fills up the ballpark every time he plays. Maybe he'll skip a road start for a home start. Maybe he'll I don't know if he'll get investigated for doing that, but maybe he'll get a road start for a home start. Maybe he'll if he has 6 innings, no runs, 11 Ks, and 74 pitches, maybe and the Pirates had an offensive outburst, maybe they'll just say, this is one of those times we're just going to save you a couple innings. I just think that it's going to be strategic like that. I think when you have a guy like this, you have to unleash him. You have to get him used to throwing a 200 inning season for when the time comes around that you need him to be the ace of an incredible staff. And he can be that. He's only 22 years old, 23 in May. It's incredible. And I think that when you look at there's no one doing what he does exactly the way he does it now. There are incredible pitchers who put a wicked spin on the ball and throw it really hard, but I just think there's something about this guy and the fact that he's just don't give an F. Like he's just like, I'm just here to do my job. I'm not trying to
With a six staff.
embarrass you. I'm just better than you, and my arm will do the talking for me. And he's great for the game. And the Livy Dunn thing is kind of interesting because I feel like everyone gives her so much attention, and I feel like he wants nothing of it. And but it doesn't seem like there's any rift or anything in the relationship. It's just so funny that that can only be good for his brand. That I don't know if he was dating a different person, even on the same team, if anyone would have even cared. You know?
He's just about his craft. I mean,
Yeah,
he's focused on his game. He's focused on, improving himself. He's still young, and I'm certain he believes that there's a level where he can get better because the truth is in baseball, if you stay a little too stagnant, eventually you become too predictable. And this game is all
exactly.
about predictability, truthfully. And so if you become too predictable in
Mhm.
baseball, well, that's going to be a problem. And you'll see that ERA slowly over the years rising. So you have to consistently get better. And he's doing that before even needing to, which is quite interesting, right? Sometimes people are like, if it's not broken,
Yeah,
why fix it? But he's adding that cutter. So I mean, I think it's going to be really amazing to see how that pitch forms. Let's say, kind of see where April goes. He might struggle with it earlier on. He might not. He's so talented that maybe he doesn't even need that phase. It really depends on who coached him on that cutter. If it was Rivera, he'll be ready
yeah,
to go from the start of the season to all the way to the end. But another really interesting point is that division, man. The NL Central is pretty wide open. I mean, relatively speaking,
yeah,
from the start of the season. I mean, you said 29 teams, except for the White Sox, are going to be ready to go from season one, game one till game 162. So are the Pittsburgh Pirates because they have arguably the best pitcher in baseball. So why not be
yeah,
excited about the fact that in that division you truthfully have a chance, or you actually have a chance on potentially making the playoffs. Forget about winning the
yeah,
division. I mean, you probably need to win the
yeah,
division in the NL Central to make the playoffs, but there are 3 wildcard
yeah.
teams. You're going to need to win the division realistically in the NL Central, but how confident are you in teams like the Chicago Cubs and the Milwaukee Brewers to definitively win that division, or even like the Cincinnati Reds to make some noise? I mean, they were a team for me last season, the Reds, that I really thought were going to progress, and you had the Pirates,
Yeah,
and they both kind of were stagnant throughout the second half of the season last year.
yeah,
But this is a new year. These players are better. Ellie is amazing. Paul
yeah,
Skeens is Paul Skeens, and we'll have to see what ends up happening. But I'm excited to see what ends up really happening. I mean, that's one of the most beautiful stadiums in all of sports. So it'll be really nice to see if
yeah,
they got some extra games in October that typically they haven't been playing since Andrew McCutchen was in his prime, winning an MVP for them.
yeah. And I feel like one thing that I looked up the numbers for his fastball averaged 98.8, and his slider was 94, and
That's
that thing was
absolutely
the
disgusting.
frisbee. And
How
yeah,
are you going to hit a 94 mile an hour slider?
that's insane. And it's
Nestor
not like
Cortez doesn't even throw a 94 mile an hour fastball unless he's like pulling back and he's like chucking it over, right? Like
that's
that's
probably how he blew his arm out
insane.
trying to get to 94.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't
But
even
when
hit
you
I,
look at
I couldn't even hit a 69 mile an hour pitch, let alone 94, 69 mile an hour fastball. I'm struggling. I'm
yeah,
struggling. I'll
I feel like you look
contact,
at that division though. I
but
feel like the Cubs are they're kind of getting a little big for their britches. I do think that they got Tucker strictly because the Crane didn't want to deal with the Yankees, and I do think it's good to have an asset like that. But I think there's a really good chance he gets
free
traded in
agent at the
July.
end of the
We
year
can talk about
anyways.
that. Yeah, exactly. So I think he could get traded in July. Maybe
Depends
the
on how the Cubs
Yankees.
do, right?
Well, no, but what I'm saying is that I think that they'll look at everything and they'll say, "Are we going to win a World Series this year? Because if not, we're not going to spend $450 million on this guy, so or $400 million on this guy. So let's get something for him." Um,
You don't
but
think that
we,
they'll ever consider the idea of extending him? I mean, the
oh, I
Cubs.
do.
Okay.
They have April, May, and June to decide that, and I don't think that the focus in that park should be a player like him. I think that they need to stack up their pitching. They need to build a team like Seattle. I feel like I honestly think the Mariners are better than the Cubs, and I think that the offense for the Mariners, everything that could go wrong did go wrong last year. But
Especially in the
you look
second
at their
half.
yeah,
That was
and
bad.
you look at their park. It's made to contain offense being right by the water and all those factors that are out of their control. So what do? They have the best rotation in baseball, and it makes them competitive. They had a 10-game lead in the division that, of course, they blew. So they'll all learn from that. I think they'll get better from that. I think they'll make. We'll talk about the Mariners later or another
Well,
time.
they
But
love Cal Raleigh enough to give him a $105 million extension a couple of days ago.
yeah,
So
I
it was
mean,
quite interesting to see.
he had 30 homers
He's a Platinum Glove winner.
in this ball suppressing park.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that's exactly why you and I are doing this, right? To be able to make that point. The guy hit 30 home runs in Seattle, and that stadium is not an easy thing to do, right? I mean,
Yeah.
how many did Julio hit last season? He was in the
I mean,
20s.
I don't even think he broke 20.
Or
I don't even
maybe in
think
the
he
high
broke
teens
20.
potentially. He might have had 18 home runs or something like that. He's supposed to be their
Yeah,
franchise
he started
player,
really slow.
right? And listen, it's not about franchise player needing to have the
Yeah.
most pop or anything like that, but Cal Raleigh, $105 million, seems like it was a good deal. 6 years, catcher, a
Oh,
tough
it was
position.
exactly 20.
And obviously, when you have a
Exactly.
rotation like that, you want to make sure that your catcher is aligned with that type of rotation. So it made sense to
Yeah.
connect that rotation that, maybe, you say the best, I say top three. Well, maybe best considering the Yankees have, faltered through with Garrett Cole
I'm
and
just
things like
saying in
that.
terms of
But,
the numbers last year. I'm not saying going
oh,
into 2025. The
fair
numbers
enough.
last
Oh,
year,
yeah, yeah,
they
last
were
year. Definitively, obviously,
yeah.
based on the numbers alone. But even if you didn't have to look at the numbers, a smart baseball, savvy fan would say the Mariners had the best rotation in baseball. So to be able to lock up
Yeah.
that catcher that you had that linked up so well with that rotation, who also so happened to have
Everyone
been a
did.
Platinum Glove winner,
Yeah.
105 million doesn't seem so bad. So, Seattle, I think, they have a better chance to win their division. I personally think it'll be the Brewers winning that division over the Cubs
Yeah.
now in the AL West. How good do you think
Yeah.
Houston is? I mean, yeah, they're the Astros, but
Yeah.
I think it's Seattle's
They're
year,
not
to
the
be honest
Astros
with
like
you.
that though.
Yeah, no, they're
They're
not
not
the
the
Astros
Astros
like
like that
that.
though.
Obviously, Bregman's no longer there either, so they lose that juice. And truly, these fans, when they lose that player that they've had for 10 years, who they've won multiple World Series with, and has just been a constant presence in their lineup and a big part of their team, and just to now no longer be there, their fans have taken a hit in terms of their morale, regardless
Yeah.
of the fact and how good they're going to be. Listen, they'll be relatively competitive. They'll win 80 plus
Yeah.
games no matter however you play it. But I think this is their year. The Angels stink. They're probably going to be the worst team in that division. The
Yeah.
A's
I
have
think
some promising
75
young guys, and they can make some noise. And the Rangers are like, eh,
the Rangers are kind of that team that if everything clicks, they could win 90 plus. But
right,
the one year it did, they won the World Series, and
right.
the other years it didn't. They were I don't even know if they were 500 last year. If they weren't, they were close. But
I think they were a
um,
tad under, but regardless of the
I
fact
don't
is
think that
they didn't make the playoffs.
yeah, I don't think that
That just goes to show you baseball. And here's something I've always wanted to bring up on this podcast that I've never been able to
yeah
talk about in front of an audience or even maybe to you. I don't know if we've ever even talked about this, but baseball is such a beautiful thing because you have the Texas Rangers who they win the World Series in 2023. They don't even make the playoffs in 2024. But how about this stretch that happened? The San Francisco Giants, back in the Tim Lincecum, Matt Cain, Buster Posey eras, and when they had Mad Bum in its prime, they won the World Series in 2010. They didn't make the playoffs in 2011. They won in 2012. They didn't make the playoffs in 2013. They won in 2014. They didn't make the playoffs in 2015. How insane of a run is that? They won the World Series in 3 out of 6 years. The other 3 years they didn't even make the playoffs.
yeah. That's crazy. I feel like
And
they
it's not even like a three-peat and then you lose 3 back. Insane.
Yeah. No, I think that that's insane, and I think that when you look at it, that's why their fans are never really too low because they know that they're just a couple things clicking away, especially with Buster Posey running the show now, who played through that to see what it takes to bounce back from being a middle of the pack team to win a World Series.
Buster Posey, probably one of the greatest catchers to ever play the game, and unfortunately, he cut his career short. Probably not only because of the age and probably the wear and tear on his body at that point was getting up there being a catcher, but could he have played another 4 years and played good baseball? I mean, he retired on a good note, so
Yeah,
there's that too. But he's now running the show in San Francisco. They've made some big moves this offseason, obviously bringing over Willie Adames and Corbin Burns. So this team is much better, but they have a juggernaut in front of them in the LA Dodgers.
yeah,
Luckily, there's 3 wild card teams that make the playoffs, so they'll probably be
yeah,
one of them. And hopefully, they'll outdo the Dodgers because who the hell wants to see the Dodgers do well again? I mean,
yeah, for sure.
they're you last season could have been a year. Okay, I understand, but now after like the clear notion of what they did, just stacking up all these guys this offseason after winning the World Series and deferring all that salary till after these guys are no longer on the team, it's like, all right, now they're like the team that everyone's looking at. Even though there are still some people who always were going to hate on the Yankees no matter what, they're just going to
Yeah,
be these mostly they're Mets fans and some Red Sox fans in there too, but they're just always going to hate the Yankees no matter what. But I mean, the Dodgers, I don't want to see them win again with that type of roster. Forget about it. It's
yeah.
ridiculous.
No, I think that that's they're becoming the enemy. I mean, I feel like been hearing a lot on social media about Mets players saying we're not the second team in New York anymore. They're kind of trying to make the world look like they're a team worth hating
Clay
on.
Holmes is
But
their goddamn ace. What are they talking about?
that's what I'm saying. I mean, all of a sudden, like not that Juan Soto isn't incredible, but you bring him in the building, and I feel like they already won they're acting like they already won the championship, or at least they're already in the NLCS with the Dodgers again.
Nothing
And
is
I
a
feel like
guarantee in baseball.
And I think that
You know,
Jose Iglesias leaving is going to be a huge thing for the vibes of everything because yeah, Soto's cool, Soto gets the fans going, but I don't really think that he's too overly concerned with he's overly in a rush if year 1 doesn't pan out. He likes the guys around him, so he's got 15 years, so he's not going to be in a rush. I mean, of course you want to win, but
right?
um,
Exactly. I mean, I agree. Jose Iglesias big loss for the Mets, but I mean, when you have Clay, that rotation's just it's. Whew. I mean, who else is in there? Nick Peterson,
yeah, David Peterson,
David
Manaya, I think
Peterson's.
Manaya's even hurt.
Mania is out.
Senga's pretty good.
Yeah, he's out. He's a good pitcher, but he's out. And they have Kodai Senga as their number 5 in that rotation.
Just a bunch of question marks, but I think you know what? When it comes down to it, they probably think we're gonna wait for that year that we're really hot out the gates and trade for a pitcher, one pitcher, and they think that'll do it for them, and maybe it will. I don't know. I'm ready. I'm ready to move on to another team.
Well, speaking of guys that are looking to get paid, not guys that have already gotten paid, it's a contract season for one particular individual in the AL East, and he plays up north in Canada.
Mm,
Vladimir Guerrero Jr. What do you think? I mean, this is a contract year for him, so is he
yeah.
going to go out there and play like he's played, or is he going to play even better to prove he needs to get at least that $500 million floor that he said he's going to expect to get next offseason?
Well, I mean, I don't think that he's making a realistic comparison of himself to even being 7/8 of Soto offensively. Because don't get me wrong, Vladdy had a good year last year, and he had all right years before that, and he had a really good which year was that? I loaded it up just to see.
I
He had
mean,
a really
he's
good 2021.
yeah.
He's a good player, but you don't give a guy that is negative in defense at first base that much money. I mean, look at if the Mets didn't give that to Pete when if the Mets didn't give that to Pete Alonso, I think that they're not comparable in terms of age, but I think impact on the fan base is pretty similar. And I think that Vladdy is a better player. Don't get me wrong. I think that 350 is fine for him. Maybe bidding war to 400, but I think 500 is kind of ludicrous.
Ludicrous considering he wants that to be the floor. But his
Yeah,
defense, like you said, is pretty atrocious considering he plays first base. He is realistically, I mean, if he's signing a 10-year plus deal, the second half of that deal, or maybe even part of that first half of that deal, he could convert over into a DH. So now you're looking to pay a DH $500 million potentially, or what he thinks he's
yeah,
going to get paid, considering what's probably going to happen in his career, is so unlikely. So I could see a similar situation, maybe like a Pete, where he takes a shorter deal. Maybe not to the scale, obviously, in terms of the numbers. Maybe similar to like a Carlos Correa. He took a 6-year deal, or actually originally he took a 3-year deal with an opt out after 1 year. I could see him doing something like that and then kind of testing
yeah,
out after that next season. But I mean, if his defense doesn't improve, I'll tell you right now, there's only so much you could do on that offense, right? He's already a great player. He's already a great player offensively, but is he going to be able to substantially add to that offense if he doesn't add to the defense and get the bag that he wants? Probably not. He's
yeah.
not going to put up Aaron Judge numbers. But if he bats,
No, yeah,
290 to 300, gets you 30 home runs and 90 ribbies, that's a great year. And he has a 900 OPS, that's a great year. You'll obviously use that in your lineup. Most teams will love to have that. But if he's a
yeah.
liability defensively, considering the Yankees are a team that might be up there, and they're a team that has
Boy,
almost religiously been one to consider defense at first base over anything else. I kind of find that hard to
mhm.
believe that they're going to want to give Vlad $500 million
No,
and deal with similar to what they've kind of went through with Giancarlo over his tenure in terms of the money, right? I mean, we can get into how great Giancarlo has been at certain times, but I
yeah,
mean, we've had an up and down relationship considering he can't stay on the field. And now we're not going to have him in
yeah,
2025. But Vlad, 500 million, man. Listen, if you're somehow listening to this, I think you need to have a reality check. Who's your agent? I don't even know, because they need to tell you that's not going to happen now. Is it a marketing tactic to put yourself out there to say this is what I expect to get? I don't know if that really helps or not, but some people think it might be, a way to put them out there in terms of being this high market guy, or see if they can get remotely close to that number and
yeah,
maybe find a tactic in there, right? Maybe he knows he's not even going to get there, but puts that out there just to see if he's going to get, closer to a number that is realistic for him, or wants to get a little bit more than what typically he would have gotten. Let's say that number that you think of, a 350 over a long-term deal, like a 10-year 350 deal, maybe that's a realistic number, right? And he's like, well, I want more than that, right? I want to get like 400 if I can. So I'll put out there that 500 is my floor. And somehow the next offseason he signs a 12-year deal worth $420 million. Well, in the eyes of everybody else, he still got more than what anyone expected, regardless of
yeah.
what he thinks he should have gotten and said he should have gotten. Because he's not going to care about what people are going to think. Oh, he said he was 500 was a floor, and he ended up getting 420. He's going to
Who
still,
cares?
he's still going to be getting $420 million. He's going to be laughing on the sidelines. So,
Yeah, no,
regardless of
for
the
sure.
fact is, I think we can agree Vladdy's going to get paid. It's just a matter
Yeah,
about, can he improve his game defensively at least in order to secure more of a long-term deal, maybe more money for him? I think that's going to help. So, I haven't followed
yeah,
his preseason, but it'll be interesting to see how he does for this team defensively, because we know what he's going to do
hmm,
offensively. So, with a couple more
yeah,
minutes, we're going to do one more baseball thing, and then we're going to have our fan question
yeah,
and kind of wrap up over here. But Cody Bellinger, entering his
yeah.
new team with the New York Yankees, playing center field. Excited to see what's going to end up happening,
So
because
excited.
he's supposed to be a big part of this team in 2025. And you know will he be what he was in, let's say, 2017 when he was rookie of the year, or 2019 when he won the MVP? um I don't know. That's a good question. you know
2019 would be an unfair expectation for him. I
Art.
feel like
Yeah.
2023 is a better place that I would like to see him.
Hmm.
26 and 20 with 97 RBIs, 881 OPS. I'll take that from him, especially in this lineup. He's been very good, very solid, and I think that he's the type of guy. Cashman loves his versatility, and I think that just being around Judge, and hopefully sometime, I don't know if they're actually gonna bat Judge second, but if they don't bat Judge second, which I don't know, I know they said they're batting Wells lead off, and then if Judge is second, then maybe Bellinger third. Um, he's gonna have a runner on base a lot of the time between the way what I think Austin Wells is gonna do, and between they're when in these big situations, they're going to say, "I'm not going to pitch to Aaron Judge. I'm going to pitch to Cody Bellinger. I don't care. He won an MVP 12 years ago. It's not actually 12 years.
Here's a hot
He'll
take.
be talking.
I expect Austin Wells to hit over 40 doubles this season.
I can see it. I like
Lock it
that.
in, and we'll check it back at the end of the regular season to see how accurate I was. But I think that's going to happen.
I'd say I don't know if this is equally as hot of a take or if it's less, but for me, 60 plus on the homers plus doubles. That's what I was thinking for him.
60 plus homers and doubles. You get a little bit
Yeah.
more creative in there. You wanted to add the home runs in there. I like it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see why
Like
you
the
can't hit
power's
20.
coming. That's the point.
Power's there, right? It's about now getting the fine details tuned out so that when you're making that contact, you're making it more often and more consistently, and then
Yeah.
the ball will go out the park. Because if he's getting more hits, a lot of those hits will be home runs. And,
Yeah.
you know, if he hits 20 home runs and has 65, 70 ribbies, has 40 doubles, bats 285, let's say, that's a fantastic year for your second year as the catcher of the New York Yankees
Yeah.
leading off. You know, so I expect some great things
Yeah.
coming out of him. I'm hoping that's going to kind of resonate early on so we have a good start to the season. But going back to Cody Bellinger and, you know, batting probably very close, if not right next to Aaron Judge, should help him more than, you know, Judge being helped out on the other side. So 2023 is a season that I was kind of looking at too. His first year with the Cubs after kind of being let go by the Dodgers like that. And I'd love to see that. I mean, 2024 wasn't a bad year for him considering how bad he's been in the past. So I wouldn't be upset if he gave numbers that were better than those years, but not as good as 2023. I mean, truthfully, I don't know why I've been saying truthfully a lot today, too. Have you guys noticed that? I've said it probably like 6 or 7 times. Truthfully is going to be the word of the week for me. So I'm going to start saying truthfully a lot more, but next
But
week
I think
it'll be out of the
I think
vocabulary.
that you got to remember also he's going from Wrigley to Yankee Stadium, where Yankee Stadium has the least amount of singles, but they have the most home runs. So you could very well see. I personally could see him hitting 25
He
bombs,
goes
and
Oppo, too.
yeah, no. But what I'm saying is, it's built for him to pull with that. With that, honestly, when he pulls the ball, it's one of the most beautiful swings in the league.
It
But
is.
all of
It's an MVP swing.
he plays a great game. I'm so excited. I think that he's just an incredible talent, and he's the perfect guy to have in center next. Look, get Judge back to right, and I think also that could lead to even better things for Judge because I feel like he kind of he he wasn't. You could tell in the field he wasn't feeling himself, but you could also tell that he didn't let it bother him when he went to the plate. So
Well, the better
I'm sure.
Bellinger does, it's going to be the better for Judge. That's safe to say.
Yeah,
And so, you know, with that, we're going to get right into our question here because we only have a few more minutes. It's going to be a little different this week because Matt's question was not there. But we have a different question. So, Matt, if you're listening, what happened? Where did your question go? I didn't see it. Couldn't. I was looking for it earlier, and I was like, where is it? I don't see one this week. But it's okay because I expect we to have 2 questions next week from Matt. But this week we have a different one.
oh yeah,
And look at that man on the bottom of the screen. It's been silent the whole entire episode.
What's up, you guys?
What's going on?
How we doing?
All right, not
How you
bad.
doing?
You know, not
How's it
bad.
going?
Chatting up over here. Just
Yeah.
getting some baseball talk. You know,
No, you guys
delving
are.
into things.
Yeah, you guys are going in over here. Sometimes
It's exciting. It's passion.
This
It's
is our
baseball,
sport.
man.
It's
This
great.
is what we
I know.
live for.
It was funny. I was like, I said something to Harry. I'm not gonna say it right now, but he was like, "No, it's baseball talk today." I was like, "Oh, okay."
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, I'm excited." So
I don't even want, he's bringing it up right now, but I'm not even gonna
yeah,
delve into it. That's how much I don't want to talk about it, especially since we're on a little bit of a time crunch here. So, what question do we have?
So Alex Way 123, Yankees, Knicks, Rangers, Jets, over under 3.5 years for a trophy for these teams.
Thank you, Alex. Great question.
Thank you, Coach Al.
What?
That's my roommate, Coach Al.
Coach? What is? I can't. Coach Al?
Coach Al.
Coach
That's what he likes
Al.
to be.
Oh, I couldn't hear what you were saying. Coach Al. All right, Coach Al. Thank you for that question. I mean, it's regarding New York sports, and we love to talk about New York sports. 3.5 years is quite a long time, especially now since everything has been such shortened in terms of, what teams have that kind of gap to be really great. Maybe not baseball for like the Yankees, they're always great, but like a team like the Knicks and the Jets and football, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, they have more of like that little smaller era to kind of get things done. 3.5 years. I don't see why they shouldn't. And it's actually kind of a shocker. I'm going to say that I think the Rangers are going to be the team out of all four of these teams to be the team that's going to win sooner than anybody else. What do you think?
I think that I would have the order be. I actually was thinking about this when I saw that comment. I think the Yankees will win in 2 to 3 years. I think the Knicks will be. I don't know because it seems like they always just come short, but I think their real championship window will be just over that. I think the Rangers are in a weird spot right now, so this offseason is big to see if they're going to make a real run the next couple of years. So I wouldn't I wouldn't count on that based on how far they've fallen off. And Harry, I'm upset that the Giants weren't on here because we could have said under, but I'd probably go with the over
Oh
because
shit! Josh brought up the Giants. God
because
damn
I would
it!
say the
Now we
Yankees
got to
two
talk
to
about what
three
Ben was talking
years.
about before, but we'll 2 to 3
Say
years.
that
Okay.
the Yankees 2 to 3 years, but if you had to do the sum of the parts, the more likely answer would be over. I feel like, but the Yankees will be knocking for the next 2 to 4 or 5 years.
Who the hell am I kidding about them damn Rangers winning a Stanley Cup in the next 3.5 years? If anything, it'll be the Yankees. The Rangers aren't going to win for the next 25 years. What am I kidding? The Islanders are going to win one before the Rangers are going to win one. Great question, though. It's about New York sports, and hopefully one of these teams can at least hoist a trophy because I think New York fans really need something because it's been what
Yeah,
13 years. Giants winning a Super Bowl in 2012 or 2011 season, but
you know
happening
it's
in
bad when
2012.
everyone, it's bad when everyone's jumping behind St. John's. Like,
Oh my
not
God, it
that
was
they're a
like
bad team, but everyone
all New
was like,
York
"This is New York's
fans.
college team."
Yeah,
Everyone,
everybody was rooting for St. John's, hoping for the best. But since somehow the Giants came up in this whole entire conversation, Ben had brought up a point. We had gotten somebody yesterday. He did this gesture over here, Mr. Unlimited, Russell Wilson signed with the Giants. So it's exciting. It's interesting. It's a 1-year deal. Quarterback room is quite different than anyone would have really expected, considering last season was led by Daniel Jones. Now we have Aaron Rodgers. I'm glad we don't have Aaron Rodgers. We have Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and Tommy Cutlets. So it's going to be fun to see how this plays out. Malik Neighbors should have a good year, and hopefully the Giants are more competitive than they were the last 2 years because I don't know if I could stand another year like this because I truly am on the cusp of just losing my mental state of mind when it comes to football.
yeah, no, I was honestly joking about the Giants in terms of saying they would be the under. But
Well, better
when
than
you
the
look at it,
Jets.
it's definitely Yankees. I mean,
I mean, if it was
I
just
feel
Jets
like
and Giants, we'd say Giants, I think, right?
I feel like they're very comparable because they're both good schematically on defense and they play well, but offensively it's just so dysfunctional. The
So you're not, yeah,
Giants,
you're not considering the cursed mentality of the Jets state. I mean, the Giants are cursed too, but the Jets are even more cursed.
it's MetLife, bro.
It's MetLife. It is MetLife. But at least over the last 10 years, the Giants made the playoffs twice. The Jets haven't sniffed the playoffs since, what, 2013? Since Mark
Yeah, it's
Sanchez
been a
was
minute.
running the show over there in New York. So, it's a tough world to be a New York football fan, that's for sure. I mean, we both stink, but we both hope for the best, and that's what you can only hope for as a fan. Just cling on to
For
the
sure.
start of the season and just see what happens, and then once week one ends, and you'll be like, all right, reality check, our team sucks, and move on till
Mm,
2026 because that's what usually happens over the last few years for us Giants and Jets fans. So, but on that note, thank you guys for such a wonderful episode. I think I had a lot of fun. This one was cool. It was kind of like
yeah,
from the start we just kind of merged everything in there.
for sure.
Best part. You ready to rate this yogiism? Oh, we never did our rapid fire, but we don't have time, so we'll do them next week. I completely forgot about that actually, but we will
It's
do
all
them.
good.
We will do
No
them
problem.
next week. I
Sounds
mean,
good.
could we squeeze time? Maybe, but we'll pass it off till next week. Baseball is 90% mental, and the other half is physical.
Absolute classic. We're gonna go 9-5
9-5.
because I'm not trying to be. I'm not trying to be loose with the 10s, but that's a quality one with the 9.5.
All right, Mr. Dave Portnoy over there rating his pizzas and his yogiisms over there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Josh, where can they find us?
We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. We love your comments on Instagram. And on Spotify, you could comment on stuff too, actually. I just figured that out. So we love to see you guys interacting with us. We're excited to bring you more stuff. And we'll see you next week.
Don't forget to call us crazy. Thanks again for a wonderful episode, and see you guys next week.
You know, also you can like wrap up the end of the show.
Oh, yes.
Great show.
Heyo.
It's true. It was a pretty good show.
No, that was great. I loved it.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty hungry right now. I'm not gonna